This song is a song I've been meaning to cover for a while now, and may remind you of a slightly more famous song about subways. This one, however, was recorded off of Swedish radio in 1980. The song also happens to be a personal favorite of SktSkf. Honestly, I'm a bit surprised it's taken me this long to make a video about this song, so you'll just have to... What's the word I'm looking for? It's like I just... You know what? Never mind. Let's just go. Case file 388-5696, Forgive and Forget. Started off by trying to iron out the lyrics, though there'd be mild disagreements about the actual refrain, as well as jokes about the part where the vocalist sings "I scream" because it sounds like, well, ice cream. There was also a YouTube comment claiming it was a song from 1990, but that seemed unlikely. Keep in mind, at this point in time, we had no idea when or where this song was recorded. Then the original poster actually responded on one of the Forgive and Forget YouTube uploads, saying they had recorded this in Sweden. And that 1990 lead would kind of fade into obscurity. After that, marktrail reached out to a savvy Swedish Discogs user about the song, but they didn't recognize it, though they did give us a few names to reach out to. One name was a DJ that could have actually played this song, Bengt Grastrum. User Chris pointed out that the Swedish National Library had archival recordings of Bengt shows, but it'd be a little bit tricky, if not impossible, to pull off. And you may not want to forget that. One user suggested a similar sounding ska band that had a large discography and had their songs played in Sweden, managing directors, but it seemed unlikely that it'd be them. Meanwhile, marktrail found a song called Forgive and Forget by a band called the Black Mountain Outlaws, despite the fact that their album cover clearly calls them the Black Mountain Outlaws. It was at that point that the original poster provided us with all the other tracks that were on the tape. They also provided an exact date for when they recorded this, April 5th, 1980, and I have to say I do appreciate that level of specificity. marktrail did an analysis of the track list provided by the original poster. Most of the tracks were either from the United Kingdom or from the United States, though marktrail would state that he believes the song is likely by an obscure Swedish band. One user reached out to a Swedish collector who said that they thought the accent did sound Swedish, but they and their DJ friends didn't recognize the song and thought it might just be an obscure demo. We also had a discussion on if the song could be on Discogs, with SDB listing numerous Lostwave songs that would have been on Discogs when we were searching for those songs, if only we knew where to look. And if you'd be interested in a video about how successful Discogs is in Lostwave searches, let me know in the comments below. Also, I have to mention this band called Inner Vision, which did have a song called Forgive and Forget because they were brought up at least 5 times during the search for the song, despite not fitting the bill for what we knew about this song. User Mystic65 found a song called Forgive and Forget on an audio fingerprinting tool called AcoustID, and while it was longer than the Forgive and Forget upload by the original poster, it still seemed interested and, of course, had no metadata associated with it. However, it seemed more likely to be a false hit given some oddities about that fingerprint. Meanwhile, there was some conversation about the accent of the vocalist, and I mention this because, bear with me here, I also think this could be a UK accent and a UK band. We also discussed how the song is clearly about a city and the likelihood that city could be in the title. User DC Johannesson, who is Swedish, contacted Swedish radio station P3 asking about the song and explaining what we knew. Then PNWMTrabial made a big discovery, and here's where you can stop remembering that bit about the Swedish National Archive. Trabial pointed out that theoretically the archive would have a full recording of the radio station this was played on, and the exact date we knew it was recorded to. At this point, all we had to do was wait for DC Johannesson to get approved by the National Archive to be able to access it. And all you have to do is make sure that you've hit the like and subscribe button. For small channels like mine, it really does make a difference. Thanks. While we waited to hear back from the Swedish National Archive, I did a bit of research and looked into the shows that were on radio station P3 that day. The most likely option, if it were on the recording in the National Archive, would be either Hasse Telemar, who ran a request program, Kent Fiddle, who played, quote, old and new top records, whatever that means, Birgitta Asgard Lundholm, whose program really didn't seem to have much information about it. A show with requests, I think. I'm assuming that's what Disc Wishes means. And Kaj Kindval, who seemed to play both music and news. Then, an update on the Swedish archives. Local DC Johansson would sadly not qualify for a researcher account, meaning they or someone else would have to go in person to the Stockholm location, which unfortunately was rather far away from where DC Johansson was located. Meanwhile, we weren't even able to get technical details on the file. It seemed like things were at least looking somewhat up for Forgive and Forget. Heck, even Australian radio program 2Sir, which has discussed multiple Lostwave songs, had a discussion about Forgive and Forget. Of course, even if we were able to get into the library, we wouldn't be able to actually record the song, but we'd at least hopefully get a song name and artist, just as we had with Cheer. PNWMTrabial even made an announcement on the FMM server asking for anyone close to Stockholm, in hopes that someone on the server would be close enough to go in person. And we were about to learn a very important lesson. See, user AssistPlane, a Lostwave subreddit mod at that point in time, said they were near the library and that they would go. And they claimed that they did, even providing us occasional updates. And then, out of nowhere, AssistPlane left the server, which left us asking, was this all just a massive troll? And well, technically he left the server for other ban-worthy shenanigans. In all likelihood, especially as AssistPlane was an American, it was in fact a troll. On a somewhat related note, I am at least happy to report that AssistPlane is no longer a mod on the Lostwave subreddit. In fact, the Lostwave subreddit is now almost entirely composed of FMM staff, including both Yuri the Spaceman and Bodrick, so welcome them as FMM staff members, as well as Severed Head, if you see them on server. By the way, it's probably worth noting that even FMM server owner DefyJoe tried to apply for a research account at the Swedish National Library using his British college credentials, but it seems that they were really intent on only allowing listening to this recording in person. Then another user named Newtone said they would go to the library, so we again provided them with all the relevant information. And while he sent a photo of his location, it is important to keep in mind that sort of thing can be spoofed, as Sveta would point out. Then we learned that, according to Newtone, Forgive and Forget wasn't on the audio recording in the library. But there'd be two big caveats here. Apparently, programming varied based on location, so if the original poster had recorded a local broadcast versus a national broadcast of the same radio station, he could have heard something not on the recording. Of course, the other caveat here is that we have no way to verify Newtone did any of this, and though if they did, I appreciate the effort, Lostwave is so full of trolls that I've sadly learned not to trust almost anyone. As our investigation continued, we reapproached things like if this could have played on other radio stations and the classic what genre is this conversation, as well as, of course, more conversation about the singer's accent. We also knew in the back of our heads that at some point it'd be worth revisiting the Stockholm library with a fully trusted server member, with Sveta bringing herself up as a possibility. After so much time and research, Skyat took initiative and finally created a master list to include all the information of the dozens of tracks and leads we'd already ruled out, as well as some we hadn't. And that's where things stand now. If and when we'll revisit the library remains to be seen. It's possible that we could discover this track without that. And with the original poster recently providing alternate radio stations this could have also been recorded off of, let's just say that gives me a bit of a headache. You know what I could really use? Ice cream. Until next time, I'm PersonOfDistraction, and I'm now listening to
Living in the city streets no more. After 20 years, my life is a bore. My body's aching and I just want to scream. I scream. Good life in the city is just a dream. A dream. I say.